These are mafia families at war here. Okay, so what we've described here, what you've been describing is really mafia-like behavior. And I know you feel that way as it pertains to the Obama campaign, his connections to Rahm Emanuel, et cetera, his connections to Wall Street. The way I've always looked at the Clintons, Hillary and Bill specifically, is they're very close ties to the Bush cabal. You know, Bush Sr., the former director of the CIA, Bush Jr., his son. I mean, you get the whole family dynasty over there. And I've always viewed this New World Order as really being headed in this country to a large degree by the Bush family in recent modern history. So what I think you're describing with this essentially Marxist regime, this Obama regime, is a coup, another internal shadow government coup. Am I on the right track? What is your take on that? Because these people are cut from a different fabric, aren't they?
Yes, I 100% believe that the Obama campaign was the absolute coup of the Democratic Party, in the same vein of like a Bolshevik coup, because they were a minority, but they had some of the power structures in place, like Howard Dean and Acorn, and they had the money where they could organize this coup, and they had the media. The Clintons did not have the media in the 2008 primaries at all. And I do believe that they are sort of two mafia factions, and Hillary would not do something that the New World Order wanted. And that's my interpretation of it. And I think I think that she wouldn't have given the banks a blank check like they wanted, because they fought her tooth and nail. And I have to commend them. I mean, believe me, I'm not a Clinton fan anymore at all. I mean, I've watched the Clinton Chronicles. I threw up twice when I saw it. I had no idea of their past.
Right.
You know,
and for folks who are wondering, I mean, check into Mena, Arkansas, and the crimes of the Clinton family when Bill Clinton was the governor. It's epic. The Clinton death list, you're talking about an endless list of people that were found, quote-unquote, suicided with, their hands tied behind their backs, 2 pops to the back of the head, tied to a tree. But go ahead.
Yes, and I mean, believe me, I couldn't even get through the whole thing. I had to, go for a walk in the middle of the night because I was so disgusted by learning that, especially after what I had just done for her. But anyways, I think that she wouldn't do something. I also believe that the Clintons have some power in the power structure, whereas Obama didn't have power in the power structure. So therefore, he was more blackmailable than they were. And they would not do something. And so they were like, we are not giving it to Clintons. We don't care what the votes are. We are going to take it away. And, they put up an amazing fight, which actually kind of, brings me to Ron Paul. Ron Paul, to me, has actually disappointed me in how he's fought. I feel like he's just thrown in the towel, on so many levels, especially when his people were fighting for him and gaining momentum and, getting the delegates in the conventions. And it seems like every time they would reach, a tipping point of energy, he would stop it. He'd squash it the following Monday. It seemed like every time they reached a peak on a weekend, he would squash it on Monday. And something we're not going to campaign anymore. Rand Paul's endorsement of Mitt Romney. I mean, to me, I look at the Clintons, they fought to the bitter end. I mean, I was getting messages from the back, from people behind the scenes, totally supporting my petition, basically telling me to keep going. So the Clintons were fighting until the end, and basically until Stephanie Tubbs Jones and Bill Gwatney were murdered.
Well, let's talk about that. I was going to ask you briefly in the time that we have. I think it's important to touch on this because I have a follow-up question for you. Tell folks briefly who was Stephanie Tubbs Jones and who was Bill Gwatney, and what happened to them.
Okay, Stephanie Tubbs Jones was a congresswoman from Ohio, and Bill Gwatney was the Democratic State Party chair of Arkansas. They were both Hillary Clinton's superdelegates. And I know in the Republican Party you do not have superdelegates, but in the Democratic Party they do. And they're basically governors, senators, congresspeople, and the Democratic Party nominee is chosen by pledge delegates, which are based on the vote of the people, and superdelegates. And superdelegates weight, I think it's 25%. So the superdelegate vote is 25% of the of the weight that determines the nominee. And these people were Hillary superdelegates. And Stephanie Tubbs Jones was an African-American woman who supported Hillary Clinton from the beginning to the end. And that is a really big deal because initially the African-American superdelegates were with the Clintons. They were not with Obama. And they were intimidated and threatened at such a level that most of them moved over to Obama and giving him their support. Well, Stephanie Tubbs Jones did not. She was incredibly courageous. She was like, she's my friend. I gave her my word that I would support her. I do not take that lightly. I will not switch my vote. She had rocks thrown through her windows, bricks. I mean, it was amazing intimidation in her community. And she stuck with her. And when we were doing the petition, we needed to have a superdelegate go to the floor and place Hillary's name into nomination with our petition. They needed to sign the whole petition and place her name into nomination. And Stephanie Tubbs Jones, we had called her office, and we were speaking to her people, and she agreed to do that. And Bill Gwatney, who was the state party chair of Arkansas, had actually called us because we were calling delegates in Arkansas to sign the petition, and he wanted to find out more about what we were doing. And we told him why we were doing it. We told him that we needed to set a precedent, that the delegates need to vote at the convention. We can't have unanimous acclamation. We're trying to uphold a process that's been in place since 1882. And he spoke to us for a long time, and he agreed to support our petition. He said that he was going to have all of the Hillary delegates sign the petition. They were going to go into the convention, and they were going to vote for Hillary on the ballot of the first roll call. So Arkansas is A. So it would have been one of the first states to pledge their support for Hillary at the convention. Well, the day after we had spoke to him, he was murdered. And 2 days later, Stephanie Tubbs Jones died of a brain aneurysm in her car. And there was no explanation for these things.
Yeah, and that's what's so troubling about this subject matter, Michelle. Look, the reason we're having this conversation, as you and I both know, is because we value our republic. We want to speak out in support of the republic. We want to speak out for the rule of law, a return to the Constitution, and most importantly, we still have a First Amendment right to free speech in this country. You and I are exercising that right now, and I think it's very courageous of you to share this type of information with the audience and to be public and to be out there standing for the Constitution, because with the winds of tyranny, sweeping this country, that's a very courageous, brave thing to do. And I guess I'm leading up to my follow-up question for you. Based on your experience and all that you know and all that you've lived through, what is your feeling on the death of Andrew Breitbart? On the day he died, he had been public about releasing information that, in his words, was going to bury Barack Obama. Did he die of natural causes?
My first instinct was that he was murdered by Obama's people. And I actually have no doubt about that in my mind. I mean, I can't say I can show for a fact that that's the case. But when I saw that, my gut kicked in, and it was like, oh, my God, another one. Another one. And Andrew, I knew that he said that stuff at it was the Republican convention. I can't remember which one. I saw a video of that, and I thought right away, I'm like, whoa, dude.
Yeah.
Do you know what you're doing?
Yeah.
Do you know what you're doing? I mean, if you're going to do it now.
Release it immediately. That's right.
Do not wait until exactly the date you're going to release it, March 31st.
Right.
And Bettina, who is the producer of the movie that we made, We Will Not Be Silenced, 2008, had actually met with him a few years back because he was going to fund the rest of the movie because we never finished it. And, I called her, and she's like, they killed him. I mean, it's our first instinct. We both live in Los Angeles. And then the fact that the coroner that was investigating his autopsy ended up poisoned the day before it was supposed to be released, it just goes on to show you that it's a cover-up of a cover-up, basically.
Yeah, it's a pattern. It's a pattern, and we've seen it time and time again. And if you were to look at an insurance table of actuaries, or if you're to look at an actuary table, the statistic probability or possibility of Breitbart dying and then his coroner dying in the way that he did with arsenic poisoning, I mean, I guess that is just the sign of the times and what we're up against in this country, and that's why I started this call by saying it's a dangerous topic. What we're talking about is one of the more frightening things I've ever covered, and I really appreciate your voice, I appreciate your courage for being willing to share this information with folks, because those of us who are fighting in any capacity, I think need to know how dark the forces are that we're aligned against.
Indeed, and I think the thing, a lot of people ask why, or that seems crazy, or what have you. But I'm awake now. I've been spending the past 5 years researching all of the stuff about the New World Order, the Federal Reserve, the Illuminati, and all of the things that your blog covers. If you look at the fact that this whole fraudulent system is unraveling right before our eyes, and they may not have control over it, that they are reaching desperation. And then you have people like me and you and others who are waking up. It's a very dangerous time. And they are doing things. I mean, if Breitbart would have released that video and it would have taken down Obama, it could have broken the financial system. I mean, they took down Gaddafi. I mean, they take down entire countries because of, having their system, the truth come out. It's all a fraud. It's all a Ponzi scheme and so forth. So it's not that far-fetched when you put it in that perspective, and that's why I can sort of look at back of the 2008 primary and see why they went through all of those desperate measures to ensure that he was the president, that he could cover up these crimes, that the statute of limitation could end in a 5-year period. They will not be prosecuted for these crimes. There hasn't been one indictment against the banks. I mean, it's absolutely astonishing. But it's, we need to put these things in perspective. Now, I would like to call out other people inside the system. When I saw it, people was like, oh, you really left the Democratic Party and you really start working for Ron Paul's campaign, the opposition? That is the absolute right thing to do. The right thing to do is to leave a corrupt system and whistleblow on it. The right thing to do is to tell the truth to others so they can start getting their critical thinking more developed and they can see what we're fighting, because if we do not know our enemy, we are not going to win. And that's the most important fact.
No, you're right, and I think that we're ending where we began. We've come full circle here with, you mentioned a moment ago that this is such a dangerous time, and it is, clearly it is, but it's also such a hopeful time because you, who were once asleep on the left, and I, who was once asleep on the right, are now coming together in the middle in support of the return to the constitutional rule of law, in return to the gift that our founders gave us, and a return to common sense and decency. We want to turn our backs on a system that long ago threw us all under the bus. And that's why I thank you for what you're doing and your willingness to speak out. You wrote, we Americans must come together, left and right, to find common ground to restore this nation back to the Constitution and rule of law. And that is the underscore, the highlight, and the double underline of what this call was all about, Michelle.
Yes, and I thank you so much, Sean, for having me on. And that is my intention in everything I do right now. I work on photo shoots all over the world. I fly a lot, and when they ask me what seat I want, I always ask to be put in the middle, because I want to see if I can wake up someone on the left of me and on the right of me. And I see if I can bring those two people together. That's my goal every single day.
I love that. That's fantastic. You've the
willing. It's uncomfortable.
It can be, can it? I think any of us who have tried to express these truths with others who are asleep have oftentimes found ourselves beating our heads against a brick wall. It can be very painful.
Well, I live in so-called liberal Los Angeles, And, I work on liberal photo shoots, and I've woken up a lot of people, Sean. And it's not that hard to get them together because the people feel something's weird, and they feel it's corrupt, and they know something's wrong, but they can't, put the critical thinking to it, and they can't, the rhetoric, that's the main thing. It took me a while to get my rhetoric to a place where I can communicate what's going on. And they don't have a developed critical thinking, a developed rhetoric yet. They're not bad people. Like, the right could just be like, oh, those liberal Los Angeles, those liberal, it's like, people are not bad people. We can come together. I mean, I remember Aaron Russo's movie, Freedom to Fascism. There's one point in that movie where he says the left and the right need to come together. They need to stand shoulder to shoulder and fight the real enemy, which is the Federal Reserve System. And I believe we can do that. And I believe we have to try every day to do that.
It's amazing. It really, truly, this is like, I'm getting goosebumps because one of the things that I started saying a couple years ago when I started to make videos and things for YouTube was, at this point, it's humanity versus the banksters. Because to any of us paying attention, that's exactly what it is. I mean, that's exactly what we're up against.
Yes, it's spiritual warfare. That's the way I couch it now. I mean, the more I learn, the more my consciousness is raised, it really is spiritual warfare. And these people have very evil intentions. They don't care about humanity at all. And, we the people that do have a conscience, we want to create. We want to, create life or create art or create new inventions and those sorts of things. And they do not want that at all. And our energy is much more powerful than theirs. I know this for a fact. I've been in front of these people. I mean, I know a delegate that was in front of Obama. She asked him why he wouldn't let Hillary's name be placed into nomination. Obama was sweating bullets. I mean, the guy is a coward. He's a coward. If you had to really face him, he is, and most of these people are. And we can beat them. I truly believe that. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, I believe it too, and I think you're right about spiritual warfare. A lot of folks that I admire and talk to and interview don't see it that way. I do see it that way. I also agree with you that we can beat these people because, you know what, there's not enough darkness to extinguish the daylight, and a dark room need only be lit by a single match. So we can take this thing back because the light of truth and honor and humanity and empathy, which these people are devoid of, which you just mentioned, is at the crux of how we win, because love conquers fear all day long. Michelle Thomas.
All day long.
All day long. Michelle Thomas, okay. I can't thank you enough for your time. Any final words for people before we part ways?
All I would say is that, you need to get out there and speak to people. Never stop speaking and never stop trying. And, and it's the thing that I try to do, and I think that you're doing very well on your blog, is that you have to educate as many people as possible every single day. We need to get people to see what's going on and stand shoulder to shoulder with us. And if we can do that, we will win this thing.
All right, Michelle Thomas, thanks on behalf of everybody who's listening and everybody who's resonating with the words that you've just shared with us. We really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Sean.
All right, we'll talk soon.
Have a good day.
You too, bye.
Well, guys, that's it. As always, thanks so much for your support. Thanks for tuning in and for sharing this information with others. And tune in to sgtreport.com for the very latest news and information. Thanks for watching. Good night.